Us recording, and it is 10. So we are going to start. And good morning and welcome to the live program at the Sci-Fair Library. My name is Rachel Hugenberg, and I will be your host this morning for this program. Today we are talking with Sarah Zapata of the Teaching and Learning Center on our campus, and she's going to be talking with us about the 5 languages of appreciation and hopefully helping us get a better insight into expressing our gratitude for our loved ones this season. Next week, we are going to be having in John from Murder by the Book. He is an expert in cozy mysteries. So if you love a good cozy mystery and you're wanting a nice chilled out holiday read, do come on and join us next week. Sarah, if you would please.
Yeah. So my name, she said, is Sarah, and I'm so excited to share this languages of presentation with you guys, and I hope to make it as interactive as possible with some different conversations and feedback from y'all. And so please plug in as we're going. What I wanted to do, so I'm a certified facilitator in this, but just a little bit about who I am. First, I just want to share my family with you guys. That's a big part of who I am and why I do what I do and work for everything that I do. And so that's my husband and my 2 girls. And so they're a passion for why I work and why I love this content, because if we can't appreciate our loved ones, then it's hard to appreciate people at work, people that we have relationships with outside of our family. And so that's kind of just my center. And so we're just everything professional development related on campus. And so we do lots of trainings, and that led me to get certified in the languages of appreciation at work. So I am certified specifically in the workplace version of this content. What I've tried to do today is still share that perspective, but also try and weave in some personal relationships that you might have in your life, especially like Rachel mentioned during these holiday times. So this is me. And I do want to just add a caveat, because I am a certified facilitator. Some of this content is protected by the certification. And so please use this to start conversations. Please use everything you learned today to engage people in your lives. Please don't take this stuff and go teach it to other people, because I do have to protect the licensed content. So I do have something I can share with y'all after the fact, but I do have to have that caveat every time as a certified facilitator. So thank y'all for respecting that process. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and just look at some things that we want to try and tackle today, and then what I call session norms, just so we're all on the same page before we dive each of those. We're going to have an activity where you self-identify your primary language. There is a MBA inventory that you can purchase online and complete an assessment. It's short, it's simple, it's easy. It's not super confusing. It's not as intensive as other personality quizzes and things like that. But for today's purposes, we're just going to do a little self-identification so that we can move along and not have to worry about any budget constraints for anybody. And then we're going to do some practice with those and have some fun. When I talk about session norms, the main thing is that please participate. Please engage with me and with the group. So there's going to be some questions that come up that you can answer via the chat. I'm going to ask that you keep an open mind and that we're respectful of everybody as we go through this time. But if you have questions that come up along the way, you don't have to wait till the very end. Just pop those in. I believe as long as, I can have my chat screen up still, so I'll be good to see that. So we can go through getting started. So here. Alrighty, so I just want to talk about the origins of this. The 5 Languages of Appreciation in the Workplace was a book specifically written after they had the 5 love languages. So some of y'all might be familiar with Gary Chapman's 5 Languages of Love. Gary Chapman was famous for marriage seminars, relationship seminars, things like that. And people loved it. And they were like, can you take this and move it to like workplace or non-romantic relationships? So when I say in the workplace, think in mind any relationship that's not romantic. So this can really translate to any of those things. So he partnered with Paul White, who is a psychologist who had more of a business background, did lots of business consulting to kind of bring in that employment perspective. And so they two together partnered and shared their passions to bring about this book. So what I want you to do in the chat is go ahead and share. Are you a wide-eyed newbie? You've never heard of the languages of love, appreciation, the workplace, or just what are we talking about? If you're familiar with ish, because that's a word, or if you are a pro on these languages. So if in the chat box, you can just send to everybody what level of familiarity you have with this content. Rachel's familiar-ish, love it. Who else? Jane's a little familiar, good deal. We got a newbie, love it. Fresh eyes. Familiar. Okay, good deal. We might have some more people answer as we go. So one thing I want to say is if you're familiar with the languages of love, lots of that does correlate to the workplace or, like I said, non-romantic relationships. And so some of the names of the languages might sound familiar to you, and some of the content is familiar. It just kind of translates a little bit differently in a workplace or in a friendship than it would with a romantic partner. So let's get into this some more. Here we go. Okay. So like I said, it was designed for the workplace, but it does apply to most relationships. It just removes the romance. And so in the chat box, I want you to share, is there a particular relationship that's important to you that you are looking through this content with that lens? Some other, it could be people you volunteer with, it could be your kids, it could be church members, strangers. You just want to be able to show more kindness to people passing you by. So what relationships are y'all hoping to kind of look through the lens? Grandkids. So I want to use that to kind of adjust my presentation as we go to make sure I hit from that perspective, that lens you're looking at. We've got family, grandkids, son's girlfriend. Ooh, that's fun. Any other special relationships we're looking to tackle today? All right, well, I love that. I'll definitely keep those in mind as we go through the content and hopefully be able to tackle some of those things that help you go, that makes a lot of sense. Like, let me try that with those relationships. So why does this stuff matter? Why, I mean, you're here, so you probably kind of believe this stuff matters, but why is this so important? So some of the foundational stuff is that people want to feel valued and appreciated. Okay, we know that people have that need, that desire to feel valued and appreciated, but most people don't feel appreciated in the workplace. And I think that's to a lot of our other relationships with our families, with our friends. Sometimes we get too busy, especially right now. We're kind of disconnected. It's hard to see people in a regular way, and so we're having to be really intentional and creative with how we connect and show appreciation. A lot of people appreciated at times, specifically to the workplace. 69% of people who quit their jobs cite lack of appreciation as a key reason for leaving. Not just a random, oh, well, I didn't really feel appreciated too, so that's why I left. It's one of their key reasons for leaving. So appreciation is obviously something that's lacking in our society. 73% of North Americans report they received no recognition or appreciation in the workplace this past year. And I think if we take that to our families and these friendships that we have, those numbers could be a little bit different because we have different love and appreciation for the people that we're closer to than a coworker. But I still think that there are times when we go through seasons of, man, do my kids even appreciate the fact that I'm working full time and homeschooling them and still cooking a hot meal at night? And, does my son's girlfriend realize how patient and gracious others feel appreciated? And with that percentage of 73% not feeling any recognition, I don't think it's not happening. What I think is happening is it's not happening in the language they speak. So it's like being spoken to over and over again in a foreign language. So if someone is just shooting at me a whole lot of French, great. I have no idea what you're saying though. And so you might be saying awesome things. You might be like just building me up so wonderfully, but I have no idea what you're saying. So I feel completely lost, disconnected, and unappreciated. I think that happens a lot in our world, in our families, in our friends, because we're not speaking the language of appreciation that matters the most. And so I think that is what today's topic will kind of help with, because we'll be able to understand that better. So if we're feeling unappreciated in our families and our friends at work, share in the chat box, what do you think the impact of that would be? What does that do to our relationships, to our mindset, to our effectiveness, our energy? What types of impacts can it have if we're feeling undervalued and unappreciated? Mental health goes down, absolutely. That's huge right now. What else? Confidence level, yeah. If you feel like you're not getting that appreciation poured into you, then you start feeling, am I worthy? Do I matter to anybody? What's the point of these things? I'm not doing enough. Let me work harder to get the appreciation I feel like I deserve. Yeah. I'm gonna let some more of those come in, but I wanted to share these things with you guys as well. The value of appreciation, it can improve relationships, specifically to work job satisfaction, but taking it into these family and friendships, just relationship satisfaction, connection satisfaction. If people feel valued, it's done best if it's individualized and delivered personally, and if it's done in the language that's most important to the recipient, like we talked about. And so if we take the time to understand other people's languages of appreciation, and we personalize, and we are authentic about that, then we can have improved relationships. We can have improved confidence levels, mental health levels, and satisfaction in the relationships we're having around us. All right, so it's important. We know matter. So let's look at when it's not happening, what can happen. So I want some volunteers. So please get ready if you're willing to volunteer for me. And we are a manageable group. So as we do this, if you want to unmute yourself and just share verbally, I would love to hear from some of you guys. But there are what they call warning signs that with these things, if you start to notice these things in your relationships, appreciation is lacking. They are feeling undervalued and underappreciated. And this quote, not everyone wears a sign, I don't feel valued, or I'm approaching burnout. A volunteer just to unmute themselves and share out what they would think as an example of that. So I'll do the first one and see if anyone else can kind of jump on as a volunteer. So the first one is irritability. Okay. So for an example of irritability is my husband comes home from work. I've been working virtually all day, teaching my 7-year-old. The baby's been crying all day. And he comes in, he's just like, is dinner ready? Yeah, it's ready. Okay, it's ready. All right, just hold on. Let me just get this done. Hold on. Da, 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 da. That's irritability on my part. He's come in and I'm like, I've done all these things all day, and that's the first thing you say to me. He doesn't really do that. That's just an example. And so I start to get that irritability, or I feel anxious and just really short answers. And in this virtual world, it can happen in text and emails where, hey, can you get this done for me, sweetheart? Okay, that starts to show that irritability. So Lori says she did that yesterday with her husband who's retired. Yeah, those things can happen. And so that's a sign that maybe someone's feeling a little theism. And so at work, that can be like people literally like start to be tardy, not show up as much. But in relationships, it can be they're not calling as much, not texting as much, not hanging out as much, but in our virtual way. So can somebody give me an example of whether they've done that, they've seen that, what that could look like? What does increased absenteeism look like to you as a sign of lack of appreciation?
Just kind of checking out at some points in your relationships, like maybe you're napping more, maybe you're just not talking with your partner when you get off work.
Yeah.
Maybe it's trying to balance, family and household stuff.
That's perfect. And I think
one of them, takes the toll.
Yeah. Perfect. Thank you, Rachel. I think that's great. And I think sometimes it's crazy is it can be when you're like, if you're in your immediate circle of people that you're hanging out with still, it can be that you're right next to each other, but they're just, you know, someone's talking to you and you're just plugged into your phone, or you're just like, uh-huh, uh-huh. And Shaheen talked about how it affects us physically. Yes, those headaches can come when you start to feel that. Definitely has that physical response as well. This one's always fun to get a volunteer on. Can we get an example of sarcasm that might happen in relationships when you're feeling underappreciated? Anybody want to unmute or chat and share an example of cynicism or sarcasm? What does that look like in relationships? Don't be shy. Anybody? I'll go ahead and do one so we can keep moving. So this one could be something like, let's see. So maybe we had someone who wants to work on their relationship with their son's girlfriend. So it could be that the the girlfriend, the boyfriend's like, "Hey, how was it last?" If that's her response, that's a little sarcastic. Maybe it really wasn't a blast, and there's some issues there. She's not feeling connected, not feeling appreciated. That could be a sign that something's kind of missing in that. Comparing yourself to others, yeah, just creating that cynical mindset and seeing that negative half glass full type thing. The next one is just apathy and passivity. Does anybody want to take a tag at unmuting or chatting an example of that, or kind of demonstrating that?
So it could be that you get asked to do the dishes by your partner and you're just like, oh, yeah, I'll get to those. Uh-huh. And keep on doing what you're doing, and the dishes never get done. And then it's like dirty dish mountain
Yes,
becomes your kitchen.
yes. I like that one. It makes me think of like the sock that drops out of the laundry basket and it just stays in the living room floor for like 3 days because it's like, I'm not picking that up. I'm doing everything else. He can pick that up, or the kids can pick that up, or something like that. Yeah, very good. Um, the next one is social withdrawal. And we kind of talked about that with some of these other examples. Some of these definitely overlap. So social withdrawal, like, when we think about our kids, we have people who talked about their kids, their adult kids, grandkids, and it can be that they're not connecting as much with you. And I know right now we have limitations in hanging out, but they're not calling as much. They're just disconnecting. If you are in the bubble of people that you are seeing right now, they see you, but then they run off and the family that think, but they're all sitting off on the couch by themselves, those types. And then the final one is just a negative environment. Can anyone give me an example of a time when it's just, this is the biggest one, it's just like, okay, there's obviously, this is just escalated to the entire environment feels kind of toxic and negative. Does anybody have an example of that? I think this just gets to the point where everyone's just short with each other. Everyone's talking aggressively. Everyone's annoyed. Everyone just feels frustrated. It just feels like you don't have good energy anymore. That's when that environment can kind of become negative to a full amount. So these are all warning signs. So if you're experiencing these in some of your relationships, it might be a sign of a lack of appreciation. Now, keep in mind, there's still times when people are just struggling. They just had a bad day and it's not personal. But if it's like every day this is happening, then that could be that sign. So we want to make sure we prevent those things by making sure we're showing appreciation. These are the top 10 ways that we can express appreciation to almost anyone. And this is one of the things I can send to you. I have my email at the end. So if you want any follow-up documentation or follow-up questions, you can email me and I can send you this because it's a lot of words. But the 10 things here, basically, these kind of touch on all the different languages in one way or another. It's rare that if you open a door for somebody, they're going to be like, don't do that. That's offensive. I mean, normally they're going to say thank you and like it's kind. So these are just some examples that most of the time this is going to be received well by most people. Even if it's not their top language, it still means something. So these are things that are great for those strangers, those people that you pass in church if you're attending in person, the people that you just meet in your community, people you volunteer with, different things that you might not have time like you would with your child or your spouse or your friends to really say, like, dig in and know what their language is. These are the safety net options to make sure you're showing kindness and appreciation, especially during this season, to just warmly connect with people. But we want to get digging into the foundational concepts and the 5 languages that fully are deep for each person. So the concepts really come down to this: people feel encouraged and valued in different ways. It's most effective if we do it in that most meaningful way to them. And we have limited time and energy. There's only so much we can do. So if we're going to show appreciation, if we're going to take the time to thank someone and to show them appreciation some way or the other, we want to make sure it's effective, that we're not wasting our time and our energy and offending anyone or just not connecting with them anyway. So we want to make sure we use these languages to really dig into that. So we're going to now dive into the language. What I'm going to do is I'm going to present each of them, and then we're going to have an activity where you can actually do your self-identification. So the first one is words of affirmation. And this is the language that uses words to communicate positive messages to others. Pretty obvious. And so, like I said, some of these will be the ones that you might know from the love languages. It translates to non-romantic relationships, of course. And so this can come out in different ways. But essentially, for most people, the phrase actions speak louder than words might be true. For these people, it does not. They really need to hear those things or read those things. The thoughtfulness that can come behind these words matters the most. Different types of this could be personal one-on-ones. So it could be having those one-on-one conversations, those one-on-one phone calls, even a text conversation, and that's directly between you and the person that you're trying to show appreciation to. And what's great about this is that it can be done in front of others. It can be one-on-one, it can be written, it can be public. You do have to kind of navigate. I have a team member who really values words of affirmation, but not publicly. So that's not the person that I, in a group meeting, will be like, hey, everybody, let's praise so-and-so because they did so much good. They'd be like, oh my gosh, stop. So you want to make sure you kind of find the audience that works for them. But what it comes down to is specific and detailed things. It is not saying, great job, or you're so awesome. That kind of misses the mark. It's nice. That you made me feel really comfortable coming into the session because I had the information I needed. You answered all my questions before I got here. You were so encouraging and made me feel really comfortable about this topic. So I feel great doing this, and I really thank you for supporting me in that way. Rachel's probably not someone who likes public affirmation by her reaction just now, but that's an example. It's detailed, it's specific, and it's connected to what's going on with us. It's not a random generic thing. So with words of affirmation, you want to make sure that you get a little specific, you get a little detailed in the sense that they're like, wow, that really means a lot to me because you're noticing good things about them and you're praising that. It's not that generic thing. You're recognizing that your son's girlfriend chose to show up with a favorite dessert that your son must have told her about. It's that your grandkids made that homemade card with you and they wrote those letters themselves. So those words mean a lot more because they say, I love you, grandma, because you have the best hugs ever. That means a lot more than just love you. And so it's those specific things that they do to show up that are detailed to you. And so that's true for all the languages, is really making it personalized. But for words of affirmation, that comes through in the detail and specific information given in the word shared. It does not mean that they need that written word all the time and that without that, they feel like nothing. It's not this, I need to hear all the time. That it's not that. It's just that words speak more to them than these other languages. And so on each language, I'm going to kind of give you a not negative, like it's not this, because sometimes these people can be perceived as, oh my gosh, they just always have to hear from the boss. No, they don't always have to hear from the boss. They don't always have to hear from grandma that they're the best, but while it means a lot if they do get those words. So that's the overall view of words of affirmation. All right. And feel free to comment or ask questions on the chat as we go. So the next one is quality time. And this is a language where we give another person our time and attention. So with quality time, this can be again one-on-one or in a group, but it's about connecting with someone by giving them your time. It is the most burdensome, if you will, because it's the most time extensive. You can't just take 3 minutes to write a sweet note, drop it off, and leave. It's about sitting with them and spending time with them. Video chat, but the whole time you're video chatting, folding laundry, or you're on your on your tablet, or you're doing these different things. That's not quality time. Quality time is when you're focusing on them, you're making eye contact, you're talking with them, you're building that companionship. And it doesn't have to be sitting and talking. It can be doing things together. It can be having a shared experience. Even just going to a movie. My daughter loves when my husband just takes her to a movie. She feels so special that daddy took the time to go somewhere with just the two of them and spend an hour and a half, 2 hours on that time. And so it can be shared experiences. If my daughter hated movies, that wouldn't matter to her. But if it's something you enjoy doing, if you've got a friend that loves music and you choose to go and see a concert with them, or something like that, or virtually, these drive-in concerts, these things like that. Yeah, reading books, being on the couch together. You don't have to talk the whole time. It's being present with that person and connecting with. Listening and sharing is a big part of that, but just being present with them and saying, I'm going to give you this hour of time because I appreciate you so much that I just want to be with you. I just want to spend time with you. And that means so much to them, more than the words, more than these other things we're going to talk about, just being connected in the time and space together. So quality time does not mean that they feel like it's all about them and that everything has to be about them. And like I said, it's not about always being busy and having those few, and it can be 5 minutes. It doesn't have to be extensive. If in those 5 minutes you're really focused in and building connection, that's okay. That works too. All right. The next one is acts of service, and it's a language that provides physical assistance to others. And so this is the one that actions speak louder than words. That really speaks to these people. And so this could be that you help your grandkids clean their room, which is normally their chore, but you're going to come over and help them put that together. It could be making a meal for someone. It could be helping them put up their decorations for the season. At work, it could be jumping in. It can be when the husband steps in and helps the dishes. It can be a lot of these different activities. It's an act of service. This one, there's a couple of warnings I want to give for this one. The first thing is ask first. Acts of service people, they tend to have they tend to have things organized and ready, and they have this kind of picture of what it's going to look like. So if you jump in and start taking over without even asking them, that could kind of, whoa, who are you to come in on this? Like, thanks, but no thanks. So ask first. Hey, can I help you with this? And that will definitely depend on the relationship. If it's your spouse, like if my husband wants to do the dishes, he does not have to ask me. Okay, like he can jump right in and do that service. But if it is, your grandchild and they're working on a school project and you really want to help them, but maybe they're really excited to do it themselves, you might ask first. Those types of things. Or if it's your adult child and you really want to, babysit their child for them, or treat them to something by working on cleaning their house for them or something, them. So asking first, it just depends on the relationship. That's just based on the connection you have. The other thing is you have to be cheerful. If you said, hey, I want to come over, I know you just had a baby and I want to come over and do some loads of laundry. Is that great? Oh, yes, I would love that. That'd be so wonderful. Thanks. You show up and then you're like, whew, this is a lot of laundry. I didn't know some people can make so much laundry. Oh, my goodness. Oh, I need to fold it that way. Oh, okay. And you're whining the whole time. And so if you're going to give an act of service, make sure that you have that kind mentality and that you're doing it with a cheerful heart. Lori talked about work. Some people you have to ask first and others don't mind. Absolutely. It just really depends on what it is. And I really think it depends on the relationships, the authenticity you have with those people. Another big one is to do it their way. Like I kind of said in the beginning, if you come in and take over, that creates stress and anxiety for them. And so don't come in and say, oh, you're doing this all wrong. Let me show you how to do this better. And take over. I feel like that could be like an easy like mother-in-law syndrome, where it's like you have your ways and the mother-in-law comes over and starts like rearranging all your drawers, or your silverware drawer should be over here, and all these types of things. That's not helpful, because then you're just undoing the work, and it just creates like, oh, I guess my way's not good enough, or oh, this is, I'm gonna have to redo all of this. So do it their way. Even if if you have a really close relationship, you might offer some feedback, but in the end, you gotta do it their way. And it's really important to them that you finish the task. If you say you're going to show up and help them with something, and then you like, oh shoot, I gotta bail, that kind of stings them and hurts them in a way. And so life is going to happen sometimes, and sometimes a task might take longer than you anticipated, and you might have to end early. But say, hey, I'm going to have to leave early because I've got this appointment for my daughter, or I've got to get this specific thing done. If you do have to kind of bail out, give them the explanation and the reason why, so they can understand it's not personal, that you would love to be able to continue helping them, but you have to go do X, Y, Z. So those are some things to remember when you're helping acts of service. I mean, it does not mean that they're not capable. It does not mean that they don't know how to do things. It just means that someone being willing to come up and work alongside them can mean a lot. And one of my previous role at Lone Star, I worked in admissions, and I really appreciated the manager I had at the time, that when it was a peak time at work and the front lines of students was just massive, she'd come out, she'd roll up her sleeves, she'd get in the front line, and she'd be processing students. She didn't hide in her office. She was willing to work alongside us and serve in that way. That meant a lot to me, more than a thank you email would have been, because it helped me tackle the work and get those students through the process. And so that's an example at work as well of someone being willing to step up and do that act of service. All right, the next one is tangible gifts. And this is the language of giving the right gift to a person who appreciates tangible rewards. This one's a tricky one, because it does have normally a monetary value tied to it. And you don't, like I said, want to waste your effort. I had a manager in the past who like always gave a gift card to a certain place that did not appeal to me whatsoever. And if they knew me at all, they would have known I would have never used that gift card. And so I ended up always like just regifting it, or it sat in a drawer for a year, and those types of things. It never meant anything to me. And then I had another manager who one year, for people's birthdays, she got everyone a magazine. Like mine was a parenting magazine. And then another coworker loved working her yard, so she got a gardening magazine. And then when the gentleman was really big on his cars, so he got an auto magazine. That was a gift that showed, wow, they know me. They took the time to invest in something that actually matters to me. And so that means more. It's not about spending a lot of money. It's not about someone who's greedy. It's not about someone who needs all these things and just is cares more about things than people. It's not those things. It's about the fact that you know me so well that you know that candy bar is my favorite and that's what I needed today, or that Dr. Pepper is my drug of choice and I'm having a rough day, so you brought me a Dr. Pepper. It's those types of things that it's literally $1 from McDonald's for a Dr. Pepper. So it's not the money, it's that you know me well enough to know that those are the types of things that might be a pickup or an appreciation thing when we've had hard days or just doing a lot of stuff. You can focus on experiences, not just items. So it could be, let's go do this cooking class together. Let's go to this movie together, or I want to take you to dinner. Yes, it's a gift that you're spending money on, but you're spending time together as well. Yeah, make sure we're a few allergies. Absolutely, that's part of knowing the right gifts for the person. And that's funny because we have examples of that sometimes when there was someone who like wanted to make wanted to make a cake for somebody, but they were doing like vegan stuff, and all the different right things for theirs instead of a cake that they wouldn't have eaten. So like, yeah, it might have been the buyer's favorite to get a chocolate fudge cake, but the birthday person wouldn't eat it. And so you make the gift meet that person. So you've got to investigate their hobbies, investigate their interests. And so as we get, this is a great one to focus on as we enter a gift giving season in different capacities, that you don't just buy. I saw this, I should have put this on here. I saw this thing on Facebook the other day. It's like public service announcement. No woman in your life wants these. And it's that shelf at Walmart that's all like the perfume bathroom kits that are like super generic. And it's like body spray, lotion, and body wash. And some people do like those, but it's also kind of like a safety net buy versus like a favorite book of somebody, or that new fishing rod for your husband that actually he can use. And so it just kind of speaks to, sometimes there's generic gift giving versus authentic. I love you. I know this will mean a lot to you, so I'm going to give this to you. Or whenever you make a homemade item for somebody, that shows you took the time and care to make that. So a common gift is food in the workplace for some people. And then sometimes, would you want to just deliver something or hand something off? So like we mentioned, food allergies, stuff like that. But the biggest thing with this is, because you are willing to putting some money into it, that you do make sure you do that research. Because again, if they don't even care about tangible gifts, you're wasting yourself completely. And then B, if they do care about tangible gifts and they love those or whatever it is, you're missing the mark. So just make sure you take some time to do that. Otherwise, it is a waste of your efforts. And that those are the people who feel like, well, I'm not even getting appreciated. I'm not even getting anything. They got the vanilla body wash. They're just never going to use it. So it means nothing to them. So those are some examples for tangible gifts. The last one I want to tackle is physical touch. And this is a language that has potential to both encourage and hurt others if it's done wrong. This training for at the workplace. So physical touch is really, you got to be careful in the workplace. In our families, in our friendships, it's very, in the workplace, it might be a handshake, a high five, a pat in the back, and it's those spontaneous moments of like, yeah, way to go, those types of things. In our families and our friendship relationships, it can be, a little bit more than just a handshake. In the workplace, this is nobody's top language, because nobody wants their boss hugging them all the time, right? Nobody, that's just weird, and there's no laws about it. So you got to be careful with all that. And so that doesn't present itself heavily in the workplace environment, but in these other relationships we talked about, it can be a big one. And so it is that thing, romantically, that the love languages, that's the main one. In the workplace, it's the least. And these friendships and these relationships y'all talked about with family and friends, it can definitely come into play. The people that have this language, it's like, oh, I'm just a hugger, come on in, and you just hug the person. Those are physical touch people. And that it can mean a lot for them to have those hugs and have those connections. Right now, it's a hard time for people who really crave physical touch, because with COVID and everything going on, it is a hard thing. It is it can be dangerous for some people. And so it is an issue right now. And so finding ways to still do that and still connect, it can be very powerful. And so outside of these examples that are very work-based, it can be the hugs. It can just be sitting next to each other. It can be holding hands while you watch the movie together. That means a lot. I know someone who's in a relationship, and so that's really lacking. They feel very unappreciated as a wife. Her sweet tech, he's helping her at the house, cleaning and cooking, but she still feels unappreciated because he's not hugging her or holding her hand and stuff like that. So that's a disconnect in those appreciations. So you want to make sure that you can understand those things and better appreciate that. That is the physical touch type aspect. So what I want to do now is to self-identify. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to stop sharing this for a minute. Is this really hard to read? Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I am going to stop sharing for a minute. I'm going to send y'all a link, and pull that up. One second. I'm going to send y'all a link that is going to direct y'all to an online PDF if you have the ability to do that. I will also try and share that screen and just scroll. you're going to have about 5 minutes to look at this. And let me share, let me pull up. This is an Zoom. You can adjust as you need to. Here we go. So this is a PDF I just sent everybody. And so what this is a list. There's the first two on this page and then the other two on here. It's a list of different dialects, if you will, of these languages. Okay. So words of affirmation will look different for everybody. Some people need that public grandiose announcement. Others just need that little private card, that one-on-one time. There's different ways. These are kind of work-based, but you can definitely translate them into other relationships. So take a few minutes, look over these, and whether you try and physically tally up how many you mark for each one on a side piece of paper, however you want to do that, look at which one you're tallying the most on. Yeah, that means a lot to me. That means a lot to me. Whichever one you tally the most, that is a way to self-identify your primary language. All these different dialects of that language really speak to you. I'm going to be quiet for a minute. Y'all take a few minutes to look that over. I'm going to leave this up for a minute, and then about halfway through, I'll scroll down if you don't want to pull it up on your own, or if you're on a device that's hard for you to pull it up. And just read these over and try and see what's you're self-identifying the most with.
Okay, so I think Sarah may have lost net connection for just a moment. So hopefully she will be rejoining us in just a sec. I'm kind of wondering, those of you who've done love languages before, is your appreciation language different or the same? Mine seem to be consistent, but you're saying it's the same too? It seems really similar, but kind of different at the same time. I like the idea that we can individually appreciate people in different ways. to make them happy. That is something that I think about a lot. I'm trying to think for the people who don't do so many tangible gifts. What could we do for them? I know one of mine is words of affirmation. I don't know if anybody else has that one. Yeah, a few. Okay. I'm going to assume that Shaheen does because I think you raised your hand. Um, so one of the things that I like thinking about is I receive cards, like holiday cards and that kind of thing from my friends and family, and I actually save those in a card keeper. So, we think of holiday cards or cards in general as just a big gesture, but it's a written word of affirmation for me. It's something that I keep. Hey, Sarah, we were just talking about how the love languages and the languages of appreciation were all getting kind of similar results.
All getting kind of what?
Similar results between the two.
Okay, great. So were y'all still connected? It was just me that disappeared? I'm so sorry. Okay, so some of the variances of y'all, and that's great because the next thing I was going to ask is share out what is your primary language and how does it represent for you. So y'all were tackling that. I love it. So were there any other major highlights that y'all wanted, or did anyone want to chat what their primary language was?
I was saying that mine are words of affirmation and quality time usually.
Okay.
Anybody else with me there?
I love words of affirmation as well. That's a big one for me. We've got Jill saying me too. Good deal. All right. So let me go back to agree with Rachel, Shaheen. Let me go back to the PowerPoint. All right. And what I want to do with our last few minutes is look at a few examples of some scenarios, and we're going to see if y'all can kind of identify what the language is and if it was a hit or miss type thing. So let me pull that back up. All right. Okay, so these are some examples. Some are kind of work-based, some are more familial. And so this one is Bobby is working so hard on the presentation and he's working through lunch because he's on a diet anyway, so might as well keep working. It hits 5. His team member's like, I'm out. It's 5. I'm gone. But hey, I know you're working late, so here's a Snickers bar to keep you going. Bobby starts to ask his team member for help, but just says thanks, and he gets back to it. So using the chat box, what do y'all think was Bobby's language of appreciation with these clues? And was his appreciation being met? Any thoughts on that? Or feel free to unmute if that's easier for you, whatever you prefer. Is it words, acts of service, gifts? So on this one, Bobby's is actually acts of service because he starts to want to ask for help, but he just is like, never mind. And it was not met because that person wasn't willing to help out or say why they couldn't help out. And they left a Snickers bar when he's on a diet. So that was probably that team member's attempt to do a tangible gift, but completely missed the mark because now this person who's on a diet has a Snickers bar staring at them. And so that's a miss. Okay, so the team member obviously did not have the ability to understand that Bobby really just needed some help knocking it out so they could both leave at 5:15 and just be done instead of that. Can you always stay late? No. But can you say, hey, I'm so sorry, I can't stay late. Let me know how I can help tomorrow. Yes. And that can mean a lot to Bobby. So the next one we have is Mom is so excited for the holidays, but she hates that everyone can't be together because of COVID. Her kids all give her a quick call, say happy holidays, and then they take off to go watch their holiday movie. What is mom's language of appreciation, and was it being met? Any guesses on the chat, or if you want to unmute and share in? Rachel said quality time and no. Any other guesses or input? Oh, we got two saying that. Good, y'all are right. Mom wanted some quality time, and they did call her, but it was quick, and they gave a generic happy holidays. They didn't spend time asking how she was, how she's doing, what they miss about her, what they wish they could be doing with her. So that need is definitely not being met. So mom got a quick call, but her heart's still a little sad. She's still feeling that she's not appreciated and missing her family. We make sure we don't do that over the holidays. All right, the next one is Susie Q. She's happily putting together some programs for a student awards event, and she worked hard. Her design just is going over perfectly. Mary Lou sees the great work and sends an email to the team honoring Susie Q's efforts. Susie Q prints off that email and she sticks it up on her cubicle board. What is her language of appreciation, and was it met? Any chats or unmutes to see what was Susie Q's language and was it met? Rachel said words of affirmation and yes. Anybody agree, disagree? She said the same. Y'all are right. Good job. Y'all are on a roll. So yes, she was words of affirmation. It meant a lot to her to get that email. She obviously was okay with it being publicly sent to the whole team and feeling like, wow, I'm being noticed. My efforts mattered. And I want to save this. Like I heard Rachel saying she saves those cards. It's those same types of things, those keepsakes, because they mean so much. You can elegant and know that my work matters and is appreciated, even though I'm having a bad day today, that type of thing. All right, the next one is the office gift exchange or the family friend gift exchange rolls around again, and Elvis just knows his gift from Madonna rocks. He knows it because it's the same thing he gave last year, and Dolly still thanks him. He took the time to pre-order his rock star gift. He paid more than the price limit because it was just so amazing, and he even wrapped it with a gigantic bow. What language of appreciation is taking place here, and is it being met? Any guesses on that one?
Tangible gift.
Correct, tangible gifts. Do we think it's being met? Is Elvis doing a good job with tangible gifts? Rachel shaking her head no. Shaheen saying no. Y'all are right, it's not, because he's getting the exact same thing he got last year that Dolly obviously loved, but did he even consider Madonna? Did he even see if Madonna would like the same thing? No, he just got the same generic thing, and he spent all this time and all this money and all this effort, and Madonna's probably going to be like, great, thanks, and it's not really connecting to her. So that's an example of tangible gifts going wrong. Lots of effort, but just not connecting to the person. It's not just about the gift, it's about connecting to that person. So good job, guys. And so just with our last minutes, we know this matters, we want to do it, but there are some barriers to doing that. And so I just want to address those really quick. In the chat, if you want to share the barriers that you to get appreciation, I would love to see the ideas y'all have. And while y'all do that, I want to talk about two things. One is the blind spots. And so a blind spot is whatever your primary language is, you're going to speak the most. Just like if you speak English, you're going to speak English more. My husband is a Spanish family members. I speak Spanish with them some. It's not as good. I speak English more. My blind spot, because that's the one I care most about. So if I care nothing about tangible gifts, I'm going to be bad at giving appreciation to those who love tangible gifts. So identify what is my primary language. It might be words of affirmation. And then what is the one I don't care about the most, and make sure I pay more attention to that one, because anyone in your life that loves that one, that is your blind spot, you're probably disconnected with. So take the time to be aware of your blind spot and just face that. The other thing is just the weirdness factor. Sometimes it could be weird to be like, hey, listen, I really want to show you some appreciation, but what matters more to you? And asking that question. Or it could be the first time you're giving something so meaningful, so you're not sure if you're doing it right. It could be that is in the other room and they know that you're watching appreciation. So tomorrow when you show some appreciation, you're just doing that because that training person said to do this. that's weird. Do it anyways. Do it, power through it, get it done, overcome that barrier, show the appreciation and the effort to do that. That checklist that I was trying to show y'all, I'm not sure how much y'all saw, but you got the link. That's a good conversation starter. And you can create more personal examples if you want to, but hey, I had this really cool conversation today. Well, here are some things we talked about. What do you think matters the most to you, sweetheart? Or grandkids, like, what do y'all love it more when Granny takes y'all somewhere? Do y'all like it whenever I make y'all something? Do you like it more when I send y'all sweet cards? What do y'all like from Granny? Just ask those questions so that you can understand those things around you. So I hope that each of the languages, you better understand them a little bit and how it might look in a family or friendship and how, or work if that's what you're focused on. And just ask those conversations, ask those questions to better understand them. And now you have some insights of how you might address some of those things. Making it stick, you can do that. Just having a plan, keeping it simple, and making it the norm. If you only ever show someone appreciation on their birthday, Christmas, or at another holiday that you celebrate in that way, if you only ever tell your spouse on their anniversary, that's not making the mark. That is not making it the norm. So making sure that you keep it, that you make that more of just the culture in your friendships and in your family relationships. Shaheen has a great part about when you're working with students or in just any people in our families, maybe have a disability or just other factors that could be involved. They could react in different ways. I have a nephew who is on the autism spectrum. And so getting him a toy that is like a drum set with tons of noise would really like flare him up and overwhelm him. So I'm not going to gift him that, right? I'm going to gift him, a book lights up and with a flashlight that he can control, manages that sensory experience. And so he's still stimulated, but in a comparable way. So understand the people, really connecting to them and knowing them is the best thing. And hopefully that checklist can be a conversation starter for you to tackle those things. So just to end it, and I just want to say thank you guys so much. If you want in the chat, I would love to see one thing that you're going to do differently now as you go into this gifting season with some of these things in mind. And then here is my email as well. So if you have additional questions, and you can ask some questions now, we have 30 seconds, I'll pretend. If you have a question, or you can email me, or if you want any follow-up stuff, my email, don't hesitate to reach out. But any immediate questions or things y'all want to share? Rachel says that she wants to really figure out what that person's language is that she's connected to. Any other thoughts? Aware of their likes and dislikes, absolutely taking that time. It just makes it so much more meaningful. And it might be minutes or a few extra moments to figure those things out. But then once you do, everything you do will be so much more meaningful. Well, thank you guys.
Thank you so much for coming out, and we're really grateful for what you've given to life this morning, and that you've been willing to give of your time, and that you have taught us something about how other people can feel appreciated, especially now towards the holiday season. And we're going to do our usual follow-up email with a couple of things attached. As well, this recording should be available on our YouTube within, a little bit of a range. And next week, we are going to be having in John from Murder by the Book, and he is an expert in cozy mysteries. So do come next week if you're looking for a nice, cozy holiday read, or if you just love cat mysteries like me. And we will see you next week. Thanks so much, guys.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for being here.